Hi, in the first part of Lecture 1 we talked about the importance of play as it encourages child development. Does play develop itself? Today we are going to answer this question. Children develop differently because they are unique. However, we expect them to develop in a sequence. If we are thinking about physical development, we expect that a child may start sitting with support first. For example, mommy's or daddy's body or a cushion on a sofa. Then we expect them to sit without support, then to crawl and to stand with support and to stand without support. Then when they get older, they start walking and running and jumping and so on. These achievements might happen at different ages for different children, but we expect them to happen in this sequence. Play develops in a sequence as well. Children move from solitary play into parallel play and then cooperative play. Let's talk about each stage in detail. The first stage is called solitary play. It begins in infancy. Infants are children from birth up to 12 months of age. How do they play? Babies usually like to spend their time playing on their own. They are exploring all aspects of the environment that surrounds them, from the sound of their own voice to the touch of their own body parts, to the feel of their own body parts. They want to gaze upon, to rattle, to shake any object that comes their way. Therefore, infants from birth up to 6 months like mirrors that do not break, special mirrors. They like rattles, musical boxes, bells, and xylophones. As they rattle, shake, and bang things with their hands, they play alone. There is limited interaction with other children. Children do not seem to notice other children sitting or playing nearby. As a result, this stage is called solitary play. Between 6 months to around 12 months of age, infants, gain a very important cognitive ability called object permanence. What does it mean? It is the realization that an object continues to exist even if it is out of sight, if you cannot see it or if you cannot touch it. For example, when my son was 5 months of age, I played a game with him. I showed him a toy and then I put it on the sofa or a bed or the floor and covered it up with a scarf or a blanket. So when my son was 5 months of age, he was a bit confused, or he didn't react because he thought that the toy doesn't exist anymore. However, in a while, when he was 8 months of age and I played the same game with him again, he acted differently. When I covered the toy with a scarf or a blanket, he started to look for it, to search for it, to hunt for it. He lifted the blanket, he grabbed it off to see if the toy was there or not. It means that his object permanence developed. How to encourage object permanence? There is a very simple game that you know. It is called peekaboo. You sit facing your child and then you cover your face with your hands, wait for a second and then open your hands and say peekaboo or peekaboo, I see you. Different nationalities, different peoples have got this game and the rules are very similar. So you can play this game to encourage the development of object permanence. We see that infants start playing games with grown-ups, with adults. but still they spend a lot of time on their own because they are so busy exploring the environment. Every new object or situation that is introduced to them is a new learning experience. Solitary play shouldn't indicate that children are unsociable, because solitary play is the norm and it is very important for child development. This type of play teaches children how to entertain themselves, to concentrate, to think for themselves, to come up with new ideas. Children who have learned to be comfortable in solitary play are more likely to succeed in working independently. Solitary play continues into toddlerhood. Toddlers are children from 12 months to 3 years. At the beginning of toddlerhood, children still undergo that solitary play stage. But when children are 2 years old and older, they move on to the next level of play, called parallel play. Parallel play occurs when children play side by side, but there is a lack of group involvement amongst them. There is little interaction. They may be engaged in similar activities or totally different activities. They may use similar toys or totally different toys, it doesn't matter. The key principle is that they play side by side and there is little interaction. When toddlers socialize, you will often see them interacting mainly with an adult. If two children and an educator play in a sandpit, you will see that two children interact with the educator rather than with one another. This is a good example of parallel play. Although it looks like there is very little contact between them, these children are keeping an eye on each other. They like being part of a group, and they like to imitate each other. So, if one is dancing, you will see somebody else will come across and start dancing as well. Or perhaps you will see a group of toddlers sitting together, involved in the same activity, like listening to a story. There are many benefits of parallel play for toddlers. First of all, by observing other children interact, your child gets a glimpse into social interaction. Interactions can be positive, one child being good and nice to another, or negative, one child pushes another and grabs a toy. There is something to learn from both. Then, as toddlers sit and play side by side, they learn language. They learn some words and expressions. They will add them to their vocabulary and surprise their parents later. Finally, play engages not only our mind, but our body as well. Children can observe one another and learn to use new skills. For instance, if a child watches other toddlers climb on playground equipment, in a while he or she will decide to climb it too. By the age of 3, children are ready for their preschool. How do they play in their preschool age? First, they play with each other, but they do not organize their play toward a common goal. Children interact through taking turns, sharing toys, borrowing toys, so their interaction concerns the common activity that they are doing. This stage is sometimes called associative play. Then, at around the age of 4, children come to the cooperative stage. Cooperative play is often described as a more organized kind of play. The child plays as a part of a larger group that has a goal, such as making a sandcastle or putting on a skit. During cooperative play, the role of a leader and follower are often visible. At this stage, preschoolers begin to play games that have rules, which involve more interaction and which have defined roles. Let me give some examples of games that preschoolers may play. They may play hospital, where someone is a doctor and someone is a patient. They may play school, where someone is a teacher and someone is a student. They like active games with rules, such as hide and seek, tag and its variants, treasure hunt, the Chinese whisperers, or the telephone game. Cooperative play is very important because it allows children to learn social rules, such as sharing, turn-taking, cooperation, teamwork, dealing with disagreements. Also, this type of play leads to the development of meaningful friendships. As you see, play develops as children grow, and play develops in a sequence, from solitary play into parallel play and then cooperative play. However, children will go back and forth between the stages. For example, it doesn't mean that solitary play is present only in babies and toddlers. Older children at times will also prefer to play on their own. They may spend hours drawing, painting, building, or inventing something by themselves. So, we may come to the conclusion that play has different stages. Play develops in a sequence. Each stage is important for child development. I mean the 4 domains of child development: cognitive development, physical development, social and emotional development, and language development. And finally, play is diverse as peekaboo and football. That is why it is very difficult to define the term play. Many educators and philosophers have defined the term. I encourage you to come up with your own definition of play that you find adequate.